think my sound is good. Okay, that's my middle. All right, so I can always find my middle. Good, 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 good. Right, hi guys, good morning. It's a beautiful morning. The sun is shining. I have some caffeine. Life is good. Now, do I need to hit record or have you got that?
Got it.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So yeah, it looks like, is it about that time? It's that time again. Woohoo! All right. Good morning. Good morning, campers. Are you excited to paint the best colors in the entire world? Black and white. Raise your, well, no, I guess you guys can raise your hand, but I don't know how to react to raised hands. But shout out if you really hate these colors, if they're the bane of your existence. And you definitely, hi, David. Um, Black and white are they're just trouble sometimes, but there's some sneaky tricks that we can use to make them easier. So hi, my name is Erin Hartwell. I go by Corporea on the forums. And I thought, I gave you guys some colors. I think there might be a typo on one of them, which is concerning to me. So if you ended up with a brown, I'm very sorry. That was not supposed to be brown. Um, but we can work around it. I think it might have been this aircraft gray. Um, does everyone have aircraft gray? Or did you guys end up with like a brown ink or something like that? It might have just been on my thing that it ended up, but and I transpose digits sometimes. So if that happened, I am sorry. We can work without this one. You got gray. Okay, good. Oh, it wasn't on the list. Oh, okay, yeah. Don't worry. We can work with the snow shadow and the white, and we'll make it work. And we may not even need to go that light. It kind of depends on what sort of black you want to do. Yeah, Vallejo cold gray will work. Ghost white will work. Really, the only reason I picked these colors is because I happen to have them, but we can use any colors to paint black and white. We just have to remember that if you want something to look black, you have to paint most of it black. And if you want something to look white, you have to paint most of it white. So yeah, you can sub for a lot of different things. And I've got some alternate colors right next to me that if we have some time at the end, which I think we will, I'll break them out and we'll look at some of the other off whites that Reaper has and look at different colors. So yeah, so sorry about that transposed digit, but we'll make it. We'll make it through. All right, so I guess let me get a poll. Who wants to start with what color? Because they're both evil, so, and we're going to get to both of them. But do I have a fan running overhead? I do not, but that might have been my heat kicking in. Hopefully it'll silence itself shortly. I also have a cat, so, and he's actually in this room today. He wasn't yesterday. He's having a bath right now, so I think we're good, but he might come to bother us later on. So yeah, evil white. Let's see, I got a couple whites. Hang on, let me move the chat up so I can see who wants black, who wants white. Let's see. It looks like I'm getting a lot of whites. We want to start. We want to doesn't care. Good, good, good. That's good because okay, I see a lot of whites. I vote we start with white then, because we'll get to both of them. All right. So what I've done with my palette, and I apologize for the quality of this camera, but the important one, is over here. What I've done is I've put out the colors that we're going to use, and I did mix a half shade. There's a very big jump for the black in between the dark elf skin and the snow shadow. See how different those colors are? So I mixed a half shade in between. If you guys want to get your colors on your palette and mix a half shade in between those two, maybe like 20% dark elf and whatever's left 80% snow shadow, that'd probably be a good mix somewhere in between. That'll keep it from being quite so big a jump. All right, but we're gonna start with white, so we've got plenty of time. All right, so I've got my mini primed, and I think on your handout, if you haven't done this, don't worry, we can do this now while I chat at you. But I want you to base coat the top in that, oh, hang on. I had to switch colors because they stopped making a blonde hair. We're going to use blonde hair. I used to use golden highlight for this, but I think we don't have it anymore. It's just a little bit whiter. I don't know if you can kind of see the difference. This one's just a little bit more pigmented, has a little bit more yellow in it. You could use a flesh if you didn't have it. You could use a fair skin. If you took one of my other classes, fair skin would just give you more of a peachy undertone to your white versus a yellowy undertone. Other colors that might work if you don't have the ones that we're using, you could use this Orsinian sand. It's kind of an off yellow. Or this desert sand, which is a little closer to the driftwood. Let me grab the driftwood so you can kind of see. You know, driftwood is a little bit of a brown, but that's just a little bit lighter. Maybe it's got a little bit of green in it. So any of those colors would be fine. You really can't go wrong. The key is just to be leaving most of it white. All right, so if we've got his top base coated, and one of the reasons that I'm putting the white on the top, and if you switched them, don't worry about it. You paint down here, we'll go back and forth. But one of the reasons I did this is, you know, my light source is going to be above us for the most time. He's going to be standing in the sun. So it's a lot easier to put higher highlights here and darker shadows down here just because of the way the light is. So when I paint black and white, and here's kind of an example of what we're going to try to achieve. Let me see if I can get that to focus. We want, and one of the great things about painting black and white on the same miniature is that we've got good contrast. We've got something very dark and something very light. What is the decision-making process for determining which off-white to use? If I want to go cool or if I want to go warm. And so let's look at our palette here, because what I've got us doing is I've got us doing a cool black. If you can see right here, these are blues. And these are purples, so we're going in the cool direction rather than reds or oranges or something to highlight our black. And we're doing a warm white, we're doing a brown. So instead of using these cool snowy colors to shade our white, we're doing warm. So I picked a linen white, which is a white with a little bit of yellow in it. Reaper's off whites, which I think I've got next to me, so let's grab those. We'll just do a little chatting in case anybody has to base coat. Ashen Rose is a little bit lighter, or it has a little bit more pigment to it. But let's see, we've got, where's my ghost white? Ghost white, here we go. And then we've got linen. My linen, unfortunately, the label is gone. I need to find another bottle of linen. Okay, but spectral white is kind of a purple white. Leather white is sort of a gray white, very neutral, but a little bit cold. Ghost white is a little bit bluish or greenish. And then linen white has a little bit of yellow in it. So you could start with, you know, any of Reaper's, you know, regular good old whites. We've got what, dragon white, unicorn white. Snowdrift white is another one. This one's very blue, an off-white, but we could start, or pure white. I also have, you know, I'll use some artist acrylics, so I'll use like just a plain titanium white. Most of the solid whites are pretty much going to be this titanium flake or something very similar to it. You know, it's a very light white. You know, if you look at the difference between the linen here on my palette and that pure white that's right next to it, you know, it's very bright. But there's these, you know, these whites are just like pure white, pretty much. The paint formulation is just a little bit different. So you're going to get good mileage with any of them. And you could take those and you could add your colors to it and mix down if you wanted to. You could take, you know, a brown color, you know, a very light brown, and then just mix with that if you wanted to, instead of using the off whites. But one of the reasons that I'll do, you know, the steps in between, like the creamy ivory and the linen, is that it's already mixed for me and I don't have to work at it. And it's a lot faster in the class. So that's how I choose. I decide if I want something to look warm or cool. So what colors? Oh, didn't get the list. Okay. Yep. Let me grab them. Hang on. I'll get these off whites out of the way. Give me just a second. We've got plenty of time for this class. Most of this class is usually me running around and making sure that everybody is following along. So I think we're going to be okay. All right. So if you've got driftwood brown, and we don't need much of that, that's just going to be our darkest area, because this is clearly not white. This is a brown. And then we're going to go up from there. We're going to go to blonde hair. And blonde hair was what we want to base coat the top cloak, the top half cloak of the mini in, is in that blonde hair. Okay. And then we've got creamy ivory. I really like this. This is just a little bit darker than linen. You could use a yellowed bone would probably work, or an old bone, one of the bone colors. Maybe moldy flesh. You know, some flesh tones have a little bit more ivory in them. So that's creamy ivory. And then you'll have to trust me on this, but this is linen white. I got to find another bottle of that paint somewhere. I know I've got another one. I'll figure it out later. So linen white. All right. So does everybody have those colors? And if you don't, you know, work with what you got. We'll make it happen. It will be fun. This is supposed to be fun. All right. So we got those. Any other Yeah, it's hard to see sometimes the off colors. What I'll often do is, and I'll just put a couple of them on the palette so you can see them, although my palette is chronically problematic for that. Actually, I might be able to put them, well, ooh, oh, I haven't opened my leather white in a while. We have a man down. I might not be able to get into the leather white well. Let me just grab a brush and do that. Eek. Here we go. All right, so that's that leather white. Clean into my brush there. Now that I've got white all over it. Oh, so hopefully everybody's having as beautiful weather as I'm having. It's almost a shame to be stuck inside painting, but that is good. We can get out and enjoy our crocuses um, and daffodils. All right, let me see if I can get into this ghost white. Here's ghost white. Well, it's not shook well, but you can see it's got some blue in it. And I may be able to just put it. And then what else do we have? Spectral white. Let's try spectral white. Sorry, I have my brush in my mouth while I do this, so I may mumble a bit. Here we go. There's a purple white. Okay, let me put those on my finger. Here's the spectral. Okay. Hopefully this will show up a little bit better. Here's the leather white. Gosh, yeah. Yeah, they both look white. Darn. Let's see if I can grab this. This is the ghost white. You'll be able to see that one's got a little bit more blue in it. And then here's the linen white. So let me see if I can kind of get it to, can you kind of see a little bit of purple in this one? This one's kind of neutral. That one's a little blue. That one's a little yellow. Nothing's blooming in Canada. Yeah, I know. That's why I live in the South. I like our growing season. It's really awesome. So those are some of the off whites. There we go. Yeah, you can kind of, yeah, as it dries, you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so those are our choices. So if we wanted something to be in a winter scene, maybe we'd use cooler colors, although there's nothing wrong with doing some contrast. Let me grab a mini that has a couple different whites and we'll look at that while everybody's base coating. So here's our little charging ginormous mouseling of doom. Yeah, oh, you can see it better on the palette cam. Good, 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 good. Yeah, my palette cam is chronically cranky. But what I've done here is I've used a couple different colors to highlight and shade my different whites. Let me see if I move that. Let me move the camera back just a little bit for just a second because I think that's just too close to it. All right, so I've put some purples up under here to shade under that white, and I've used some yellows on the top, to show that. So that's one type of way of painting white. I tend to use a lot of purples when I'm doing, a colder white. You can see how there's some pink in the white in his ears. He's got some peachy colors here. And then the gray horse, you've got a lot of just like a neutral gray. So all of those whites look a little bit different. This one has a little bit more yellow in it. You can see some of the brown right in there. But, if most of it looks white, this horse is obviously a gray rather than a white. But you can kind of see the difference in the way I've chosen to paint each of these. So that's one of those. Let's look at some other whites. I've got, Mr. Troll here. I just painted. I didn't put any color in him. He's painted with, I think, pure black and white. And I might not even have used a gray. I may have just made shades in between. So he's very monochromatic. He doesn't have a lot of color in him. One of the reasons we're using the colors that we are is because I like having a little bit of color. He looks very flat. He's very boring. There's not much to him. So, a lot of times when I'll paint, my black and my white, I'll put, in this case, I've done very cool colors. So this is a blue, it's shaded in it's that dark elf skin. This is kind of the palette that we're going to use to paint our black and our white. So you can kind of see how that looks. You can choose different colors, but you want most of it to stay the color that you want. We'll grab Fenari too, because this is, I really enjoy doing just straight black and white with color in it, obviously. And again, this is what we're going to be doing. We're using these similar colors. I used those colors, but went up a lot higher. Yeah, I know. I felt so bad for the mouseling, the headless mouseling. But in Fenari here, I'm using that, but I'm going a little bit higher. So some of it's going to look dark, some of it's going to look lighter. But you can get a huge range even with just those simple colors for black and white. Sometimes here, this one will look a little bit bluer. you know, as a white and put it next to, you know, a dark color. But I've used, I think aquamarine blue I might have used for that. I used some sort of blue, and I think I might have used clouded sea, you know, so the spirit would look sort of on the blue range rather than true white. But one of the benefits of putting dark next to light is you can push that contrast and make them very, very different. And I'm going to show you what that looks like on like a painting as well. So let's grab, you know, when artists paint, you know, we don't have the background, we don't have the benefit of the background. So we can't put something dark, although if we photograph our mini in front of a dark area, it is going to make our whites look whiter. But look at how much brown and how much color is in this beard here. It still looks white because a good amount of it is white, but because it's put next to this black background, it really stands out. And that's where, if you really want to make your whites look light, put them next to something dark. Don't make yourself work hard by putting something, you know, lighter next to them. That's the same principle that we use like for OSL. Again, you can make something look really light if you put something really dark next to it. So just think about that when you're putting your painting together. Um, yeah, Janus actually, here's Janus. Here's our wonderful cleric. I painted him, I don't know, maybe six years ago or so. But that's kind of the white we're going for. It looks white, most of it's white, but you can kind of see that there's some other colors in there. Okay. So that's what we're going for. Okay, so is everybody base coated and ready to go? Testing, testing. Blues Clues pause moment for the audience to respond. Ready? I got a ready. Okay, we're set. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is, remember, we're starting very yellow. This does not look white, although it's definitely different than our black. But we're going to go up, and we're not going to leave very much of this golden color. If we lose it, we can always come back. We've got it on our palette. We can grab it again. Okay, so what we're going to start by doing is let's grab our driftwood brown. We're going to put in our darkest dark. Okay, so our driftwood brown is that brown. It's on our palette. I'm going to grab just a little bit. And remember, and I say this in most of my classes, when you're painting, you don't want very much paint on that brush. See how only the tip has the paint there? There's not, you know, paint going more than, you know, very little ways down the brush. And that's going to keep my control so it only goes where I want it to. Let me wash that since it's getting a little bit dry. All right. Here we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a little bit of that driftwood brown and we're going to put it underneath the cloak, the area where we're not really going to see, but we need that contrast. We need it to look dark. It is very far away from the sun. The sun does not shine from the bottom in this mini. We're doing top-down lighting. So this is going to be dark. And if we get a little bit on our bottom cloak, it's okay because we're going to paint that other cloak later. That is perfectly fine. All right, good. And everybody let me know if I'm moving too fast or too slow. I can pick up the pace. We can change it up. Can everybody see okay what I'm doing? We're just putting that driftwood brown on the bottom here. And see how it's just a little bit darker, just a little bit darker than that golden, but it's still relative. Well, driftwood brown's kind of a neutral brown, but it's warmish. It can be warm when we're using it where we are. Here we go. So just kind of getting that up underneath the cloak like that. And we'll put a little bit of it in this area in here too. And up under here. There we go. All right. And if I feel like, you know, when I'm looking at these folds of the cloak, I'm not going to paint them all the same. I'm going to make some lighter than others. I'm going to leave some darker areas in the recesses. So let's say maybe I want a little bit of that right up under here. Okay. And that might be too much. I may find out later on, nope, I don't want it. But for now, let's put it in so we get a little bit of contrast. Okay. And this fold here on the side is pretty deep. Right here. It really folds back away from the light. So let's put a little bit of that there. Okay, so it's just lined a little bit on the inside. But I wouldn't do that on all the folds. I wouldn't do it on this fold because if we look at that mini, the light, you know, really gets that area right here if I'm looking at where my lights are shining on it. Okay. Oh, good. You've got the list of colors in chat. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Perfect. Yeah, let me know if I need to grab anything or if I need to pull out the colors again. So we're not, again, not using very much of this, just a little bit. Maybe I'd put a little bit up under here. And I went ahead and painted all of him that color because I find if the Bones mini is white, it really creates a big glare on the screen. So I think this will help us a little bit. And let's get it maybe inside the hood of the cloak next to his face. Again, not much of this driftwood brown. I like driftwood brown. It's a really good color for like wooden planks. it's just a good brown. It's a good solid. You can't go wrong getting a lot of good solid browns. They're good colors to have. Let's see, we'll just touch up a little bit. Good. Good. Oh yeah, the first number there is the mini. It's like 7 7 something. I think all the bones are in sevens. There we go. All right, so that gives us just a little bit of contrast. Okay, still doesn't look white, but that's okay. We'll get there. All right, so we got that. Okay, let's take a little bit of our creamy ivory. And we're going to cover most of the cloak in the creamy ivory. We're going to leave a little bit of our blonde hair, but we're going to cover most of it. Everybody doing okay? Everybody keeping up? We can let that dry because we're going to be in a different area. A lot of times we have to wait for paint to dry, which is super unfun. All right, so we're going to cover most of this cloak. And don't be afraid. We're going to put a couple layers too. Okay. Cover most of that cloak. And see, again, not much paint on my brush, not much, because I can always put another layer on. I'm using a wet palette because it keeps my paint a little bit thinner. I'm not really adding a lot of water. Yeah, let me pause here for just a second to talk about that. I'm not adding a lot of water to my paint. What I'm doing instead is starting with a semi-wet brush. And I don't know if you can see this when I put that, it leaves just a thin film of water. Let me see if I can get away from the thing there. Just leaves a little bit of water on my hand. That means there's a little bit of water in the brush, in the belly of this brush here. You see how it's a little bit wet, it kind of glistens. So when I pick up the paint, it's going to have a little bit of water behind it. And that allows me to paint a thin enough layer without having to really thin my paint a whole lot. You can see how it kind of wicks down a little bit. I find having that slightly damp brush will keep that point, keep me painting, but will keep this paint from running away from me, but I can still get pretty far, in terms of work before my paint is gone. That keeps me from having to go back to my water to clean things off. It just keeps us moving. That's one of the reasons that I like the natural hair. Ooh, sorry about that. Let me adjust that. There we go. That's probably a little closer. That's probably better. Let me know if that's too much of a glare and I can back it up. Okay. So back to the creamy ivory. That's our color right there. We're grabbing that creamy ivory and we're again covering most of the cloak. So we're going to cover all of this here on that fold. Okay, yeah, as we get more white, I'm going to get much more of a glare. I'll have to work on that. We'll adjust the camera as we go. Just let me know if it's getting too white. In this case, on this fold, I'm going to leave a little bit. Do you see how I'm coming close, but not quite to the edge there? I'm going to leave a little bit of that golden as my shadow in there, that blonde hair. Okay. All right, cover. Now in this case, the whole top of the cloak, I'm not going to leave anything in those shadows because the creamy ivory is going to be my shadow in that area because the light's coming straight down. If you feel like that's too much, you can always go back and put a little bit of that blonde in there, but we want that to be the lighter area of the cloak. So we're going to cover all of it with that creamy ivory. And again, that's just thinking about where our light's coming from. Okay. So again, covering most of this. We're not going to go all the way to the edge there, maybe pretty close, but not quite. So I'm leaving a little bit of golden in there. We'll get to that next fold in just a second. There we go. And again, this is the creamy ivory. Here we go. Get a little bit of a second layer on that. There we go. All right, so over here, I want to leave a little bit of that golden, the blonde hair in the corner there. This fold, I'm going to get right up in here. Okay. Here we go. We'll get the bottom there. Okay. I'm kind of just thinking, where is my light? Where do I want this? Already starting to look different. Okay. All right, grab a little bit more of that creamy ivory. Let's get this area here. Okay, and in this case, this maybe is a little bit more shadowed. Let's leave a little bit more, because this is very thin paint. I'll leave a little bit more of that golden color in the corner there. Okay. Here we go. Let's pick up a little bit more of my paint. Make sure I get the top ridge there. Again, you may need a couple layers because white tends to be, well, in the way I'm painting it, it's a very thin layer, so we're painting pretty transparent. You could put it on thicker. If you find that it's too thick, just add a little bit of water to your paint. Not a lot, just a little bit. And what I did there was I just cleaned my brush on my paper towel. So I got the paint off of it, but I left the water there, and I'm just going to kind of use that water to kind of fuzz the edge of that. I know it's hard to see because it's white, so it glares. Oh, that's the one problem with cameras and whites. See if I can hold it still. I just made it so that it blended a little bit. What I did was I took, let's see, let's grab a piece of paper at the risk of making the camera even angrier. Here is my creamy ivory. See how it's not a white, okay? If I clean my brush and just get the paint off of it, I can kind of come back with some water and pull that paint down so that I'm blending it. Do you see how I'm doing that? So instead of, let's use a thicker, let's grab a whole bunch of that. Okay, we're gonna slap it down, a lot of paint there. If I take a clean brush right next to it, I'm just gonna pull it down, pull it down, pull it down, pull it down. That's what I'm doing on the Mini. And that helps leave a little bit more paint at the top, less at the bottom, and kind of gives us a blend. A different way of doing that would be for me to take, for example, this color, and then let's grab our blonde hair and put it right next to it. I could take those, then again use a clean brush and kind of blend in between, put a color back and forth so I can get a blend that way, or I can get a blend by doing, turning it almost into a glaze. The thinner the layer you put down, the less you're going to see a difference as you go, the more layers you're going to need, but the smoother your blend is going to be. So if that makes sense. Those are different ways to blend. And all of these are perfectly good ways. You'll see sometimes as I'm blending that I may kind of move up towards my highlight or down, if I'm using a shadow, if I'm going towards my shadow, down towards my shadow. That's because I'm leaving paint at the end of my brush and letting it go. And sometimes it'll be there. Sometimes the paint fragments, the pigment will just sit there. That's a good way to think about highlighting, is always go towards your highlights or towards your shadows, depending on which one you're painting. Okay, so back to our creamy ivory. We're still in creamy ivory. Let's get a little bit more of that right up in there. Okay. And again, what I did was I just put my brush on my paper towel that's wet so that all I've got is water now here, and I'm just kind of blending a little bit more. There we go. Okay. And then let's put a little bit more here. And again, we're not going to be leaving very much, a little bit too much water on my brush. So one problem with my wet palette is I keep it really wet, especially as it gets warmer outside. So I sometimes have to use a tissue to actually dry off my brush a little bit. There we go. Okay. Am I missing any questions? Everybody doing okay?
You're kind of drifting to the bottom of the screen.
Oh, darn it. I do that. Yeah, I've got short arms. Yeah, definitely let me know if I start to drift. My natural painting distance is like in my lap. Here we go. So we're covering the top of the hood again because the light's coming from above. Let's see here. There we go. Again, this isn't white. This is, sort of a very desaturated yellow. But compared to what we're using underneath it, it's a little bit lighter. Here we go. Okay, just getting in. You can kind of see how I'm looking at all of these folds and I'm deciding, okay, how much white is going to be on this one? Is this one going to be lighter? Is it going to be darker? And it maybe you get your paint down and then you realize, nope, I need to come back and I need to reclaim more shadow, or I need to go even lighter. That's the fun of painting white, is that there's a lot of pushing and pulling, and a lot of tinkering as the painting process continues. And that's okay. So I'm putting on a second layer. There we go. That's good. Doing good, doing good. There we go. I like this creamy ivory. It's a really, it's warm. There's a little bit of yellow in it. I like warm whites. Cold whites, always make me feel like it's winter and I need to be inside. Here we go. Fill that in. Again, we have none of that shadow color. Sorry, I left all my mold lines on this Mini. I'm forever finding mold lines when I get about halfway through things. All right, in this case, we've got some fun folds here. let's leave some dark in those folds, but let's grab the edges. There we go. So we'll leave some of that blonde hair. So you don't have to get a color that says white. You can use a hair color. You can use a skin color. You can use a lot of colors to paint your whites. And again, all you have to do is just put something really dark next to them and they'll look even whiter. But yeah, a lot of the danger with white is that it ends up looking dirty. It ends up looking gray. And with black, it ends up looking gray. And so the key is, and I usually use the rule of thumb of maybe 50 to 75% of the surface should probably be white. Oh, sorry, you have to go, but thanks for coming. It'll be recorded. Don't worry. So you can always watch it later. I like that. That's a really exciting thing to be able to go back because there are classes that are going on at the same time as mine that I kind of want to watch too. So I'm going to go back and watch them later on. So I think that'll be great. Alrighty, ready. Here we go. All right, so already we're kind of looking, if I can get that to focus, and that's the problem with white. White just glares horribly on camera. But it's starting to look a little bit lighter. Let me check and just make sure. Oop, there we go. Good. All right. Okay, so we got that. Let me see. And if I wanted to, I could do the same thing on his arm. Let's say we leave that shadow up underneath, but maybe I put a little bit of lighter so we have an extra surface we can kind of play with. Okay, so we've got the creamy ivory down. All right, everybody doing okay? Keeping up, watching paint dry. Paint dry is fun. So what we want to do next is we want to move into our off-white. Ooh, Stargrave. Oh, that sounds like fun. I've never played Frostgrave or, any of those. I've just played, mostly D&D. So I'm always excited when there are new games that are coming out. All right. Okay, so now we're going to grab a little bit of that linen white. Okay. And this is going to look, unfortunately, even more glaring. But you can see how it's a little bit lighter than what we're working with. And again, there's not a lot on my brush. But let's start to define some of these folds. Do you see how there's sort of an indentation right here? I know there's that glare is just awful. I'm not sure how I'm going to get around it because we're painting white. I didn't think about that. That's the one problem with cameras in white. Let me see if it's better if I move the camera further away. I hate to do that to you guys because then you can't see as well. Nope, it's going to glare no matter what we do. All right, well, boo, as we say, boo. You'll be able to see it better on yours than you're going to be able to see it on mine. This white is problematic. Okay. Note to self, next time teach red and yellow. Okay. So linen, we're going to grab some of that linen white. And we're going to come in and come kind of right up underneath that fold there. And again, we're going to cover a lot of this. We're not leaving, we're covering smaller areas as we go, but we're still covering a good bit because we want it to look white, not off-white. We could stop if we wanted it to look creamy. You can stop at any time. If you feel like it's white enough and you're happy with it, just stop. That's okay. You don't have to go lighter. Or you could go lighter in a smaller area and then it'll look more like a cream color. Okay, we're going to cover the top, and you can see how these folds are rounded. So what we want to do is we want to put a highlight kind of along the edge so we give that rounded appearance. And again, sorry for the glare. Let's see what we've got here. There we go. Okay. There we go. And I can see this great, and it's starting to look white, but I know it just looks like a glare on your end, so sorry about that, guys. Black piece of paper on my desk. I'm afraid that might make it worse, not better, but it might. Let's see. I don't know if I have black paper. Without getting up, I don't think I have anything black. Let me see if it, I don't think this is going to help the white balance any. Ooh, that might help a little bit. Is that a little less glare? Is that better?
It is a lot better.
Yeah, let's do the white under this, and then we'll go back to the gray for the black. Perfect. Sorry, guys. All right, technology is awesome. Okay, now you can kind of see the difference between that linen You can still see the blonde hair kind of in the corner there, and you can still see my transitions. We're going to work on those. Part of it I'm going to leave just so you can kind of see where the colors are. But you can see that creamy ivory, and then we're starting to put in that linen white. Okay, so note to self, white. Okay, awesome. All right, let's see. Make sure I'm staying on top. There we go. Oh, the cat woke up. We could be in trouble. We'll see how it goes. So in this case, I'm going to kind of get the tops of the folds there. And I might continue it down just a little bit here, but maybe not all the way. Maybe leave a little bit of a divot there. Okay. But we definitely want to get the top of that fold there. Okay. Do. Get a little bit over here. Maybe this wouldn't be quite as dark. Let's go back and grab a little bit. I'm going back to the creamy ivory, and I'm going to get this cloak area here. Because I may not, because it's underneath that other one, I may not want it to go all the way to the light, but I don't want it to stay blonde hair. So let's put a little bit of that creamy ivory there. Perfect. All right. Oops, sorry, wandered off camera again. Okay, back to the linen white. Linen white. Linen white. Here we go. Maybe just a little bit on the edge there. And let's get all of these folds that stick out on top. There we go. And remember how we painted the creamy ivory all the way across there, maybe taking away entirely that blonde hair? This linen will let it look even a little bit lighter. Here we go.
You're kind of drifting again.
Oh, darn it. Where did I drift this time? Okay. All right. There we go. Oh, yeah. That's because I'm really close. Well, can you see? Is that a good distance? I'll just have to stay very still. I'm afraid that's a little bit. Let me just move it back just a little bit. Then if I drift, it's not quite so horrible. There we go. All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah. Keep me on my toes. All right. We got this. There we go. Perfect. Okay.
And there's a question in the Q&A.
Oh,
someone asked that their eye is reading the color as tan. How can they push it to read white?
To push it to read white. So leave less of the layer behind. So if it's still looking tan, then there may be too much of the blonde hair on there. So like if let me go back and it's still, we still haven't gotten much of the white on here yet. So we're still darker. We're still in the creamy family. We're going to go a little bit lighter. Let me see if I put these next to each other. If you can kind of see, we haven't gotten to that last stage yet. You see? So yeah, it is going to read a little bit tan. If you wanted to push it more, just leave less of this. So if I felt like I had too much of this golden color left there, you can see how that makes it look more tan, then I would go back and I would grab a little bit more of that creamy ivory and I would cover over that. Okay. And that would make it look a little less tan. And then maybe I might even grab more of my linen white and come even further in with that. And it would read a little bit lighter, if that makes sense. So we haven't gotten to the highest highlight stage yet, and we're still just putting our first layer of the linen white. So yeah, it's not going to look white yet, and that's okay. That's okay. We'll get there. It's baby steps with this. If we go slow and steady, it'll work out a lot better for us. Otherwise, we're going to do a lot more pushing and pulling at the end. And one trick at the end, if you feel like it's still reading too dark, you can take a very thin layer, a glaze type layer of your white and kind of glaze over the whole thing. You may lose some of your deepest shadows if you do that, but it'll bring it up a little bit more. So that's always, a lot of times, it's just like, if you guys have painted non-metallic metal, how it looks horrible, and all of a sudden it looks okay at the end. We haven't gotten to the stage where we're going to make it look okay at the end yet. So it's okay. We'll get there. But again, you've got to make most of the color, you've got to paint most of the color with white in order for it to look white. So we're still with the linen. Let me put a little bit more linen here. I'm going to reclaim some of that I painted over. There we go. And let's keep going around to this next fold. There we go. Let's say I want to go even a little bit lighter. Let's grab a little bit more of that creamy ivory, and we're going to get rid of a little bit more of that golden color, that blonde hair. There we go. So that's going to make it look a little bit lighter too. All right. So let's say if we look at it from this angle, man, there's just too much of that golden color. Let's see. I'll put a little bit more of that creamy ivory in, and that'll help us. A little bit more of that creamy ivory. There we go. Perfect. All right, back to that linen white. Grab a little bit more linen white. Yeah, I'm wired into the internet, but every now and then my internet has issues. So if there's any problems, let me know and I can try to adjust. I turned the Xbox off, so nothing else is trying to suck up my internet right now. There's hope. Unless the cat is doing something that I don't know. Okay. You never know. He's trouble. All right. There we go. Okay. Covering most of that with the white. And if you feel like it's too stark a transition, like right there, I feel like that's blonde next to white. So let's go back and let's grab some more of that creamy ivory. And we're just going to kind of come right up to that and soften that just a little bit so it's not quite as stark a transition. See what I did there? I got rid of a little bit of that, made it look a little whiter. Yeah, cats are always up to something. He is definitely, I sometimes when I come home at the end of the day, I'll ask him, did you have a good kitty day? What kitty things did you do today? Did you tear up my house? Where is the trouble today? He knows I love him, but yup. Yep, cats are trouble. They are chaotic cute for sure. All right, we're back to the linen white. Still painting with the linen white. Yes, he's on Zoom practicing law. Yeah, he's definitely up to something. He's trouble. I named him Trouble. That was probably my first mistake. All right, there we go. Yep, make sure. Sorry, I drifted again. Sorry about that. Let's see. So, oh yeah, so that's where the what is it? The LOL cats or the ICANN has cheeseburger. Gosh, that's probably I don't even know if that site is still up, but I remember ICANN has cheeseburger. That was the best. I used to look at that when I was in school, and I was like, oh, I just need something fun today. I'm gonna look on cheeseburger. Yep. All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm picking where do I want those highlights to fall. There we go. Do 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 do.
Oh, well, we're kind of in a little bit of a lull. There's a question in the Q&A as well.
Oh yeah, issues with thinning light white colors, white or chalky. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's go back to. Oh, that's a good question. That's a fantastic question. Good. So again, the way I like to have my brush is with a little bit of water in it. Rather than thinning my paint. Because you're right, white paints, because of the pigments, sometimes when you thin them too much, they'll start to separate or break on you. The binder is supposed to be there to kind of hold the pigment together. And if you get it too thin, there's this weird chemical reaction where it just turns into chalk. It's terrible. And it has sometimes to do with the paint flakes, like how big the pigment flakes are. So metallics are pretty bad at this, but your whites are pretty bad about chalking up. And the other issue is sometimes if I'm going to grab my pure white, no, we're not going to be able to see it on there. Okay, well, we'll pretend that this is white, even though it isn't. If I let it start to dry, I'm going to give it a minute. And then I go back and I mess with it. I'm going to pull off. Do you see how I've created a tide mark? What I've done is I've let the binder pull into the paper, but I've moved some of the pigment around and I've made it very, very angry. So you have to be careful that if you're going to thin the way I do, where I kind of put water into the edge of my paint and pull it down. So I put my paint down. I have to almost immediately come back and start to work on that in order to not get that tide mark. I can't let it start to dry on the miniature or the binder will kind of adhere and then the pigment will run away on you. So there's two separate issues with chalking. One is either it's starting to dry and it gets angry at you, or you've thinned it too much and you've broken down the bonds of security and it's sad. Off-whites are a little bit better, probably because there's some other muddier things that are in the colors, some additives, some things that make them opaque like our skin colors. And that seems to thin a little bit better than the pure whites. I almost never use the pure white until the very end, and I don't use a lot of it. So I don't know if that helps, but that's the way I do it is I'll put just a little bit of paint on the end of my brush like that, but I've got water behind it. So as I paint, the water is gradually overtaking the pigment. So there's no pigment left on my brush, but there's still a little bit of dampness. And that's one way I do it so that I'm not actually thinning the paint. I'm just using some water with the paint or after I use the paint or directly adjacent to the paint. And that seems to work a little bit better for me. But some of it, you just have to kind of play with the colors and, oh wait, not that mini. Where's the other mini? Oh yeah, here he is on his handle. It's like, nope, that's the done mini. Okay, all right. So hopefully that'll help. And if that didn't answer it, let me know and I will try to come up with, I'm always telling my nephew to use his words. I will try to come up with new words, new words. Use my words, use my words. All right, let's see. There we go. Make sure I'm kind of in focus there. Sorry, again, there's a mold line kind of on top here. Let's just pretend his hand is another surface of the cloak there. Do, 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 do.
Might we see the return of the white paper?
Yo, oh, yes, you guys, yes, you may. Yes, in fact, absolutely. Thank you guys. Ah, I love you guys. You guys are doing great. Okay. Everybody having fun? Are we moving at a good pace? Is it making sense? Good, 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 good. All right. So again, just using a little bit of that linen white. And we're kind of putting on a second layer. And again, because my paint is so thin, if yours is really thin, you may not notice a huge difference between your first layer and your second layer. But as you put more layers down, it's going to get more opaque. And so less of the color underneath will shine through. This would have been very hard for us to do if we'd started with a black primer. We would have had to really work up to get to white. So that was one of the reasons that I started with kind of a blonde color, because it'll lend a little bit of yellow to our work, but it's not going to overwhelm or make it too hard to layer on top. Put a little bit more water on my brush. There we go. There's like a Goldilocks zone with how much water I want on my brush. There we go. I'm going to get a little bit more of that creamy ivory. Put a little bit more of that in there. There we go. Yep, perfect. So starting to look a little whiter. Let's get a little bit more of that creamy ivory here. There we go. Just fill that in a little bit more. Oh yeah, good, good, good. All right. And back to that linen white. Good, 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 good. Do, 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 do. Oh, I think he's snoring now. He's so cute when he snores. So adorable. Let's see. Maybe a little bit right in there, but not a lot. Not a lot. Good. Let me know if I drift. There we go. And, if you want to blend a little as you go, turn your mini on the side. For me, it's easier for me to pull down and to go from this side to this side. If you're left-handed, it might be different. But, turn the mini so that you don't have to work. So you can say, okay, maybe I want to do a few little feathering strokes here to really blend that in, maybe even get a little bit further in. And I'm depositing my paint at the end of that stroke. So that might give me a smoother blend. Also, if you cheat, one of the ways to cheat blending so that people don't notice it is, we're looking at this cloak and we're seeing these folds that are vertical, right? So if we have vertical lines, like skunk lines or something like that, or stripes or plaid, vertical plaid, we will see those. But if we turn the mini on its side and then let's say we look, I'm going to add a darker color so you guys can kind of see this transition. I'm going to take I'm going to wreck our mini here for a second. Sorry, guys. Let's put a little bit of this driftwood here. Now I can see that transition, right? That's really stark. Okay. I can see the difference between the two of those, right? Okay. So if I go back and I grab a little bit of that, and don't do this on your mini. I'm just showing you guys, but I'm going to grab a little bit of that creamy ivory. Let's do sideways so that I can still kind of see that there's a transition there. But if I look at it that way, our eye is going to still see it. You're going to still see those brush lines, but you're going to see less of them than if I'd done them vertically. So let's look at what it would look like if I did that blending vertical. I had that. Okay, and it's wet, so it's going to look a little bit glary. When I put this next to it, I can see those lines much better than if I do. Let me grab a little bit of that blonde. Go in here. That if I do that. So using a stroke that goes perpendicular to, sorry, I ran away on that, to your fold may help you hide some of your brush strokes and hide some of your blending a little bit better. You still would want to blend even more than that, but that's a little bit better. You can see it better from this angle. I feel like you can see those brush strokes really well, but it might disappear a little bit better if I turn it this way. You can still see it because it's, not blended, but I don't know if that helps. So back to that linen white. So ignore that particular fold on our cloak. Let me just grab a little bit of, there we go. Just cover over that. There we go. Okay, that was the creamy ivory. All right, so we're starting to look a little whiter. A little bit more linen white. Let's just make sure. And this is where where we do a lot of, oops, sorry, is that focus? Yeah, stay there. A little bit of pushing and pulling and figuring out, okay, how much of everything do I want to leave? Do a deaf cat who snored so loud. Oh my goodness, I believe it. Yeah, they're so adorable. They're, yeah, he can't hear himself, so, yep. Here we go. Good, good, good. All right. Good, good, good. Let's see, that's awfully close to the camera. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right.
Someone just asked in Q&A, are we moving toward a suggestion of a shadow more than a distinct shadow?
I guess so. Yes, yes, because I mean, we still want it to look white. I wouldn't want to shade with, our black. I wouldn't want to use something as dark as, the dark elf skin. We're still, so shadows are relative, right? Some substance, and it has to do with what, white is a reflective color, right? The reason that we're seeing it as white is that all of the other colors are absorbed and it's reflecting white light back to us, right? Or the opposite of that. Sorry, I've got to get back to my color theory of light rather than color theory of paint. All colors are reflecting back to us because white is all colors of light. Sorry about that, guys. All right, now I'm awake. More caffeine. So a lot of times what we're seeing is reflections from things that are close by. So when we're looking at something white, do I have an example? Probably not, but here, let's use this one. In this case, let's say this cloth here is white. I may be seeing some shadows that are reflected up of something that's purple on the ground. I may be seeing some light reflecting some sunlight, some more yellow light reflecting from up top. So I'm seeing things in relation to things that are close by. White is one of those colors that you can work all colors into it. I've got an example of that. Let's take a break and we'll. All right, so sorry, this might be slightly, let's just cover that up. Okay, now it's safe for work. So this is white, right? It reads as white, but let's get real close to it. I can't make it look better. There's green from her armor. Corset thingamabobber here, there's green in there. There's flesh because I'm painting see-through flesh. Okay, there's some yellow in there. I've put a lot of colors. One of the paintings in your handout, there should be a Vigie Lebrun where she's painted like a muse with a white sheet. Get really close to it. And if you, I think you can Google Vigie Lebrun and it'll pull up on Google and you can get very, very close to that painting and see how much color is in that white. So white by itself is just going to look flat. It's going to look like this piece of paper. It's going to look boring, but you got to work some color into it and you can still make it look white. So that'll read to me as white, but you can see a lot of other things in it, a lot of skin tones. It gets very dark in the back. Here's a good example. The back is, yeah, that way I don't have to hold on to it because I don't have to cover over chest stuff. But there's a lot of green in here. So your shadows are made up of things that are close by, not actual shadows in the color itself. I'm not sure if that makes sense if I'm using my words. But that's how I approach white. I think about what's around it and I use those colors to reflect. If I'm just doing an exercise, I'm just going to pick either a warm or a cool white and just go with that. All right. Okie dokie. All right, so starting to look a little bit more white. Let's work a little bit more of that linen white into this. Okay. Go. Maybe a little bit more of that creamy ivory up in that fold up in there. So that's not linen, that's creamy, that's creamy. Let's get this fold up in here. There we go. Yeah, that I'm liking. All right, so we're not leaving a lot of those other colors, but we still got our darker driftwood underneath. So we've got some contrast from that. This is a fun area. Let's grab a little bit of that creamy ivory and let's paint just around the edge here. Okay, so that'll kind of look like a fold of the cloth. There we go. So that gives us a little bit of definition there too. A little bit of creamy ivory there. Okay. All right, so that's starting to look a little bit better, a little bit more creamy ivory up in here. All right, perfect. Good, good. So it's not looking too dirty. Okay. And then I might grab just a little bit of this pure white. And I think pure white is, again, titanium white. It's very reflective. You know, it gives us back pretty much all the light it possibly can. So let's work a little bit of that up in here. Okay. And I'm not going to cover over everything with this, just a little bit. I just want my highest areas because this is very cold white. There used to be a really awesome white that you could buy that was called lead white. Want to guess why that one stopped getting made? Don't lick your brushes if you're painting with lead white. That would be terrible. Terrible. But yeah, lead white was sort of a yellow white. I kind of miss some of my leaded glazes too. I used to do pottery, and leaded glazes had some really nice colors that you just can't get anymore. I mean, you can, but you know, you can't eat with them, so it's kind of pointless. Uh-oh. Got paint where I didn't want it. There we go. Shouldn't null oil? Yeah, be safe. Safety in painting is very important. When I go over my color theory class, I always put a Mad Hatter picture up because there's a lot of toxic stuff out there. And you want to be really careful that you're not doing anything that you're going to regret later on.
Someone asked what color you're currently using in
Oh,
Q&A.
this is pure white. I'm so sorry. Pure white. You could use dragon white. You could use unicorn white. Just plain pure white. You could use titanium white. Yep. Yep. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, sorry about that focus there. Get that on the top of the. There we go. So yeah, safety first. Safety first. Every time I move, I feel like my focus is off. I'm sorry, guys. Here we go. Ooh, yeah, I like that. Perfect. And let's say that transition is too stark. You can kind of see how there's a line here. Let's come back with a little bit more of our linen white. And we're going to go with sideways strokes, little feathering strokes up, 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 up to there. I'm going to put a little bit of water on my brush and just feather that edge down. There we go. So that blends that out a little bit better. You can see that. Okay, so pure white. We're up to pure white now, and we're not using a lot of it. Just a little bit. Maybe just a little bit here. I'm really sorry about that focus. Here we go. That's I just grabbed a little bit of the linen white. I'm coming back there to kind of soften that a little bit more. All right. So is that looking a little more white? Is everybody starting to look a little bit more white? You know, mine is still kind of in the creamy color. If I wanted to go a little whiter, you know, I would use more of the linen, less of the creamy ivory. You know, I might come back in here and say, okay, I need a little bit more linen white in here, and then maybe I need a little bit of pure white, you know, right next to it. Here we go. A little bit more pure white. You can't go any higher than white. You can't go any lighter than pure white. Unless they come up with some pigment that we haven't heard of yet, which anything's possible. You never know. The future may bring even whiter whites, just like we've got even blacker blacks out there. But notice how each successive area is getting a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. That means that we're leaving some of our shadows behind. Otherwise, it's going to look flat like our piece of paper, and we don't want that. We want it to look rounded. We want to have some form to it. Grab just a little bit more of that pure white.
Somebody asked what color you base coated the black section in so they can give that time to dry.
Oh yeah, go ahead and start on that if you haven't base coated it already. This is the Nightshade Purple. So I think, you know, starting black is probably going to help us there. All right, how are we doing on time? Is it about, oh yeah, we've done about an hour. So let's stop here just so we've got enough time. If any questions about, yeah, Stuart Simple, yes, exactly. Yeah, find me something whiter than white so that we can make it even lighter. But what I mean by, you know, we can't go any lighter than white is that we're going to have to get our contrast from things that are not quite white in order to show that contrast. Okay, So is everybody kind of happy where we are with our white? Mine looks a little creamy. I'm okay with that. If I wanted to look whiter again, I would just get rid of more of the things that are not white. Let me cover over that. I didn't want driftwood there. There we go. Put that blonde back in there. That helps a little bit. Everybody doing okay? Do we need a stretch break? Let me drink some of my fountain drink. I'm so excited. I splurged and got myself a fountain drink this morning. It's so good. All right. Okay. Everybody doing okay? Alrighty, righty. Good, 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 good. All right, perfect. Okay, so let's think about blacks. And blacks are fun. Blacks are the opposite of whites, right? They're dark, and that means they're absorbing a lot of light and they're not reflecting much back to us. And if we get too much of other colors on them, they're not going to look black. They're going to look like that other color. So at least 50 to 75% or more of it's got to stay black. So we've base coated our bottom with the, and let me switch back to the, I think the gray is going to work better for this. So that white may look a little terrible for a second. Okay, focus. You can do this. Focus, camera. Focus. You got this. You know you can. Okay, it's not wanting to focus. That's interesting. It's never done that to me before. Let me just... Okay, now it's focused. Sorry about that. Okay, all right, I think we're doing okay. I'm just gonna remember to stay kind of right there. All right, so if everybody, is everybody kind of base coated in our nightshade purple? Let me touch up a couple areas that I got with my driftwood there. Okay, perfect. And what I thought I'd do, you know, at the end, if we have time, I'm hoping we will, is I'll grab a couple different colors and we can try playing with different highlight and shading colors. All right, so we've got ourselves space coated here. Now these folds are beautiful. I love these folds. We've got 1 fold, 2 fold, 3 folds, and then this kind of swirly thing here. And I realized we didn't really work much on the inside of this cape because there wasn't much, but we can also work in here. So what we're going to do is we've got our, and notice we're using an off black, we're not using a full black. I've got a lot of blacks, and actually let me show you while we're waiting for that to dry, because I know that probably does need to dry for some folks. Let's get our white paper back again. I'm going to grab this this ink. Okay, and I'm going to show you some of the differences between our off blacks, our blacks, and this ink, because I think we have time for this.
You also have a couple of questions in Q&A as well.
Oh, yeah, what we got. All right, 50 to 7 needs to stay using my white cloak. No, it doesn't need to be staying the base coat. It needs to, so 50 to 70% of your area has to be white if you want it to look white. 50 to 70% of it has to be black. We base coated in one of our shadows and we worked upwards. In this case down here, we're starting with our darkest shade and we're going to work up because we're going to work very narrow. We're not going to use a lot of color. But I find because white tends to be fairly translucent when we use it thin, if we don't put some other things underneath it, it's harder for me to think down in white. It's easier for me to think up because I can't go any lighter than white. I'm going to start with something else so that I always know when I finally get to white, I've got something else left behind. That's just the way my brain works. If your brain works differently, there are different ways to do it. You could paint it white, and then you could go back and you could just put a little bit of shadow colors in the folds of your cloak if you wanted to do that. But in the case of the black, what we want, so this troll looks gray, right? Because a good amount of him is not black. And I wasn't really going for black with him. I was going with gray, you know, with dark vision. So he's looking more gray and not much of him is left as black, right? Okay, but if we want our cloak to look black, see how narrow those highlights that I've drawn on there are, but how most of it is still staying black? That's what we're going for. We want to leave most of it black, but we're going to add some other stuff. Does that answer that question? Let me see, what else do we have? Mix that I mentioned. Oh, for the black midtone. Yes. What I did was I took, because there is a huge jump, because I didn't want to give you guys too many colors to play with, because paint is expensive, even though I have all of it. Dark elf skin and snow shadow, there's a big jump. That's very dark, that's much lighter. So I want to mix something in between in case you feel like going from one to the other is too much. In my case, what I'd do is I'd use this, and as I went, I'd kind of blend a little bit with both of them. But that may not work as well when you're just starting out. So mix a shade maybe of like a drop of this and 2 or 3 drops of this if you want that much paint. You won't need a lot of it, but that'll at least, so that's what I've got. So right here on my palette for the black, I've got the off black that we're using, which is Nightshade Purple, Dark Elf Skin, which is a purple, right? A dark desaturated purple, a mix, not quite half and half, of the Snow Shadow and the Dark Elf Skin, the Snow Shadow, which is a nice sort of desaturated blue, and then this Aircraft Gray, which you may or may not have. If you don't, we may not even go all the way up to that. We may just use a dot of that. And then I also put a little bit of a black here. I put the ink out. Let me put some of the other blacks. I'm going to grab Dragon Black so you can kind of see the difference in what we're working with. These are just to demonstrate. You don't have to have these colors. We're not going to use them. I just want to show you what they look like. This is Walnut Brown. We're going to grab these. I like the off blacks that have a little bit of color better than the flat blacks. They just have a little bit in them. Another, it's a little bit lighter, but Red Shadow, which I don't think they make anymore, is kind of a red black. So I'll show you that one too. Ooh, this one is going to have to get my paint pokey tool. Any questions while I'm going for the paint pokey tool? Here we go. Grab a little bit of that. Ooh, yeah, perfect. And I think there's a green shadow, but I couldn't find mine the other day. And then here's Nightmare Black, which is a blue black. Coal black. Yeah, coal black is nice too. Solid black. I like solid black, coal black. I think I have coal black somewhere. And then I've got carbon black. The golden acrylics are very glossy. So I may put some of that out and you can kind of see what that looks like too. I've got Liquitex, the Liquitex gouache, but I'm not sure I can reach it because I didn't expect to use it today. And let me grab a little bit of that golden. Ugh. Ooh, I haven't opened that one in a while.
Well, while we're dabbing paint, there was somebody that asked what a good substitute for airplane gray is.
The Aircraft Gray, I would probably just mix a little bit of your linen white with the Snow Shadow. You'll end up with more of a green. Let's see if we do that. Let's grab a little bit of that, or the pure white. Grab the pure white because that's on your palette. Grab the pure white and mix a little bit of the pure white with the Snow Shadow, and that will do it. It's pretty close. And so that'll look like, let's see, I'll show you what they look like on the paper. This is your Aircraft Gray, which is kind of a blue gray. And then this is the Snow Shadow with the pure white. So it's a little bit bluer, but they're pretty similar. It's close enough. Yeah, so if you don't have that, you may not even want to go that white. If you wanted to do something that looked like a leather coat, you would have very high, bright, look at photographs online of like the Matrix movie. You'll see very narrow, high highlights of almost off-white, something like a blue would work really well. Okay, so we've got that. So here is, okay, now I've got to remember this is the ink. This is the black ink. Okay, and as I thin it out, you can kind of see what that ink does. Everybody see that okay? So that's that black. This is Reaper's Dragon Black. See how it's a little cooler? This is maybe a little browner, a little warmer. This is a little cooler, maybe a little bluer. Let's grab a little bit of, this is Carbon Black. This is the golden Carbon Black. And you're not going to know what's in blacks until you thin them out. So see how that's a little bit, they're all just a little bit different as they kind of stay out of focus on me. Okay, camera, you got this. Okay, there it goes. All right, I'm upsetting it. I'm moving too much. Okay. And then let's grab some of our off blacks. Okay. So this is, wait, let me remember which one this one is. I put them all out. That might be Dragon Black. No, darn it. I put out too many blacks. Yeah, I can't remember what that one is. Sorry, we'll skip that one. All right, there we go. This is red shadow, or no, not red shadow. That's walnut brown. So that's walnut brown. See how that's more of a brown? That's closer to maybe that ink, but it's even got a little bit more brown in it. So that's walnut brown. Yeah, I can't remember what that color is. Darn it. Sorry, I put too many browns on mine. This is the red shadow. There we go. See how that's a red. Okay. And then this is nightmare black. This is going to look very, very different. Look at that. That's nightmare black. It's just a very, very darkly pigmented blue. Yeah, doing, I really like watercolor paper is great for looking at what's in a color. You know, sometimes you might look at something and go, okay, well, it looks dark, but you don't know how it's going to behave when you add white to it or you add another color to it. So you've got a huge range in colors that you can use. Yeah, I wish I could remember what that one black was that I grabbed. Coal black. It must have been coal. That must be coal black. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so does that kind of help for the off blacks? And I think you could probably even use peacock green is a very dark green. You could use that as your black. Again, it's all relative. But I like them when they have a little bit of color in them because they tend to play very well with others. Good. All right. So,
Then we
okay,
have somebody that asked what the mix ratios were again, and I don't know what they were referring to. Maybe what's on your palette for the black section.
for the black, okay, so for the colors that we're going to use, we can ignore all the other stuff now. This is straight nightshade purple. Straight nightshade purple. Oh, so yeah, let me pull up nightshade purple so you see what it looks like on our paper. So nightshade purple is purple, right? Ooh, look at that. It's got some purple in it. You know, it's not maybe as red as, you know, the red shadow over here, but it's definitely got a little bit of purpley, dark purple in it. So it's a pretty color. Okay, so this is straight nightshade purple. This is straight dark elf skin. This is a mix in between our snow shadow and our dark elf skin. And then if you don't have the aircraft gray, just take a little bit of your pure white and mix it with your snow shadow and you'll get kind of a slightly lighter blue. And again, we may not even need it, but we've got it if we do. It would let us get a really shiny, leathery kind of look. Okay, so now we should be base coated. All right, and we're going to leave most of this black. It's going to be scary. If we find that we haven't left enough of it black, what we're going to do at the end is we can go back and we can glaze with our black and cover over everything. It'll smooth out some of our blends and it will reclaim some of that darkness. Okay, using liners for black, I guess you could. I don't tend to because I just forget that they're usually not on my desk. They're usually in one of my boxes and I forget I have them. But you could use a blue liner. The problem I have with liners is that they're very translucent. So you're going to have something darker underneath. So if you wanted to add some color to black, that would probably be what I would do with a liner is put down my black and then maybe add a little bit of color. But instead of doing that, I tend to just use the off blacks because I can pick one that's blue, I can pick one that's red, you know, I can pick one that's green, you know, I can work some color into my, my mini. All right. Because again, our black is absorbing all of our light, and the only thing that we're seeing is basically reflections of things that are close by, just like with our white. Okay, so let's grab a little bit of that dark elf skin now that we're all base coated. So I'm going to grab just a little bit on my brush. And I'm going to look at these folds, and I'm not going to paint them all the same. Hang on, let me clean my brush and show you my other mini. I'm not going to put as the same amount of my, okay, mini, focus, there we go. So I may put more highlight here. Maybe this one's going to be smaller. Maybe this one will be bigger or smaller, depending. There's not as much going on over here. Kind of see how there's little points. So I'm not going to paint the same degree of brightness on each one because I want to make them look different and interesting. That's where you get into the fancy part of painting. You're not always going to go all the way up to white with your highlights on everything. You may have a spot of white in one area that's going to draw the eye. And what that's going to do is you want people's eyes to dance along your mini. You want them always looking back and forth and all around. If it's all monotone and everything's painted the same, it becomes very flat and very boring. So we're going to use these folds because these folds look different. See how, you know, one of them may stick out a little bit further. This one is a smaller and narrower fold, so we're not going to paint them all the same. Okay, that's just sort of the fun side of painting. All right, so let's get some of that dark elf skin. And we're going to kind of cover the top. Can everybody see okay? Top of our fold there. Okay. Doop, 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 doop. And again, this is our purple. This is our dark elf skin. Would glaze also be? Yes, yes, it would. Absolutely. And you might want it to be with like your linen white or your creamy ivory. And then you could go back and reclaim some of your highest highlights. If you glaze the whole thing in your pure white, you're going to lose a lot of your shadows. But yeah, you can always go back and glaze with one of your, yeah, I would probably do the linen white. I would maybe glaze with the linen. And I think it would take it a little bit into the cream zone, but it would help. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, anytime that you're not satisfied with your blending, glazing is a great way to play with that. So let's put a second layer on this fold right here. And I'm not going to go all the way to the top. I want to leave a little bit of shadow because this top cloak overcomes, leaves, it sticks out. So it may leave a little bit of a shadow right underneath. All right, and in this case, maybe I don't want quite as much. There we go. Okay. We're not going to use as much paint on this side because we started dark. We want to stay there. Okay. I like painting the flared edge because it sticks out. Go and maybe put a little bit here. There we go. There we go. Okay. And again, this is our dark elf skin. There we go. Well, the Fitbit wants me to walk. It's always asking me to do things that I don't want to do. Why is it always pestering me? Here we go. Okay, I'm going to leave, this really stark so you can kind of see where I've painted all of those areas. I may put just a little bit here, but I don't think I really need it. Just clean that brush off and just glaze it a little bit. Let me come back. Part of my primers come off here. Here we go. Some of my dark. All right. Okay. Okay. So not a lot at all. Let's play. We can play a little bit with the underside of the cloak too. Okay. And again, I think I've lost some of my. There we go. All right. Maybe a little bit there. Not a lot of areas. Okay. And I might use when I want to get, you see how this fold is very sharp. This edge right here is very, very sharp. What I'm going to use is I'm going to take my brush with a little bit of the dark elf skin and I'm going to skate across it with the side of my brush, not the tip. I'm using it, can't, how to, let me see if I've got something, okay, so if I'm looking at the edge of this paper, I'm going to skate my brush's edge along here. And what that's going to do if the paint is on that edge is, let's do that. Here, I'll just show you. I'm going to paint the edge. That's how you get, like on the edge of a sword blade, how you get a high highlight without like driving yourself crazy by trying to use the tip of your brush. We're painting the side of the brush there. And that'll just get that one edge to kind of stick out a little bit. So that's the sneaky trick for doing those, how everybody gets those nice little edge highlights on things. Okay, so does that kind of make sense? Okay, and again, right now I feel like we've got a little bit too much of the purple. We're going to come back and we're going to glaze afterwards and going to fix it. Okay, so again, just like with non-metallic metal, it's going to look terrible for a while and we're going to get there. I promise, we're going to get there. All right, so let's use a little bit of our mix in between the snow shadow and the dark elf skin. And we're going to paint just a slightly smaller area. Okay, and I'm going to try to leave my transitions so you guys can see them. Can you see that? Okay. Good. Good, good, good. Okay. So that kind of is a gray, right? It's a purpley gray, but it's a gray. I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab just a little bit more of that dark elf skin, that plain dark elf skin. So it's not going to look great right now, and that's okay. That's okay. Let's put a little bit of that dark elf maybe right in here. Okay. And then I'm going back to that mix in between of my snow shadow and my dark elf skin. Putting a little bit here.
The mix that you're referring to, is it 50-50?
No, because the dark elf skin's going to overwhelm let me grab the paper. It's more like 30-70 or 20-80, something like that. All right, let me grab. If I were to take a dot of my dark elf skin and a dot of my snow shadow, I would mostly still get dark elf skin because dark elf skin is so much darker. So I would have to take maybe one dot of dark elf skin and maybe 2 to 3 dots of snow shadow to get a color that's different. And that's just because of the strength of the one color versus the others. You'll find that some colors overwhelm others better or more. Your yellows are often very weak. Reds sometimes can be very weak. If you want a quick, I don't know if we have time for quick color theory, but I can get in Discord later and I'll demonstrate it. I'll show you how some colors like absolutely you have to like. Have you ever tried to mix something and you've got a giant glob of it on your palette by the time you get the color that you want because you started with too much blue or too much purple? Raise your hand if that's happened to you, because that happens to me all the time. And I even know better. But it's some colors are just going to overwhelm others. So it's probably just a teensy little bit of that, maybe one drop of the dark elf skin versus 2 or 3 drops of the snow shadow. Okay. Yeah, some colors just, sorry, I know. Well, see, but remember that nothing is in isolation because black and white are boring and they've got to have some color or they're just really going to look dull. You know, my gray troll here has no color. He's just boring. He needs some reds, he needs some greens, he needs some yellows, and he really, perk up. But I really was trying to go with, how part of our eye, sorry, I'm going to digress again. The eyes has rods and cones. Your cones are your color vision. I think C for color, cone for color. Rods are your black-white vision, your low-light vision, where everything is kind of shades of purpley grays as it gets dark at night. I was trying to go for what could our rods pick up in a cave, but regardless, there's still some color to it. So yeah, color theory in black and white. All right. Okay, so we've done that. Let's go straight for the snow shadow next. Woohoo! Oh boy, I love snow shadow. It is really nice desaturated blue. Here we go. And we're not going to use a lot of it. Okay. And I may even use it even in a glaze kind of consistency there. Here we go. Wow, look at that. That's so bright. It looks almost white. Does it look white next to your black? Isn't that great how that contrast really shows? Discord name or channel. I'm Corporea. I think in the Reaper thing, I think it's Corporea Erin Hartwell or Erin Corporea Hartwell. I'm not sure which. But I should have a channel and I will try to get on today. I did not get on yesterday because I had a wonderful thing arrive in the mail. You know how everyone's been trying to get the Xbox Series X for like ever because it's sold out and all the bots are getting it. Well, I sat on this website of Wario 64 until I finally got myself. So it arrived yesterday. So I had hooked that up. Sorry to stay away from my duties as a painter, but I was very excited about my new Xbox. It was my Christmas present to me. But yeah, I think I am Corporea Erin Hartwell, and I will be there later. My channel is often the breakfast channel because I really like making breakfast. There we go. All right, so see how I'm not using a lot of areas there. Okay. Yep. If you're a PlayStation person, I love PlayStation 2, but they're even harder to get a hold of right now. So yeah. Someday, supply and demand will go back to normal. Someday. Let's hit that edge there with a little bit of that. Okay. All right. Oh, I realized I did not paint. Hang on. I'm going to go back to that mix in between. Let's put a little bit here. And then grab a little bit more of that snow shadow. Sorry, I'm doing 2 steps at once. There we go, because I forgot that. All right, so that's starting to look a little bit better. Let's go back to, let me grab my not half and half, but my mix of the snow shadow and the dark elf skin. And I'm going to just get that edge there. There we go. Maybe a little bit right in there. That might be a little bit too light. Let's go back with dark elf skin over that. It's a little bit too dark. Too light, rather. There we go. Okay. All right. So again, not a lot, not a lot, not a lot. Breakfast is totally the best. I'd started doing that intermittent fasting for a while, and I didn't get to have breakfast until 10 o'clock, and it was the worst. So I had to quit that. It's just not going to happen. Okay, and then I might grab a little bit of that aircraft gray. And just maybe put a dot of it. And I hate to give you guys so many paints to have, but sometimes just a little bit of this goes a long way. All right, so there. So I've left pretty stark transitions. Does that still kind of look black to everybody? I'll pause and do my Blues Clues moment. The highlights are so small. Yeah, they really are, because we really want it to look black. And if we feel like it's gotten too purple, what I can do as soon as this dries, because I don't want to mess it up until it dries, is we can go back and we can glaze with some of our nightshade purple. So I may do that here. Let me grab. So I'm going to put a little bit of water on my palette. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of my nightshade, and I'm just going to mix a little glaze. So it's thin paint. But notice that my brush is still staying pointed. There's paint in it. You can see it maybe goes down to about here, whereas before I was having my paint come to about here. So the brush is a little bit more loaded with paint. Okay, but it's not overwhelming. It's not a wash. And then I'm going to kind of come over top and just cover the whole thing. Just cover the whole thing. Okay. And if I feel like, and as soon as that dries, we'll see it a little bit better. If I feel like that's knocked my highlights down too much, I'll come back and I'll pick them up. As soon as that dries, the shine will go away. Yep. Yeah. There's, we should make like a D&D of, an alignment chart for paints. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of those online where people, tell me that a ravioli is a Pop-Tart or something like that. I get all memes wrong. I'm terrible at memes, but the how people hold their coffee cups kind of thing. I get a kick out of those. All right, we're gonna let that dry. So that kind of knocked it down. Ooh, I've got a question. Hang on. Let's see what it is. Ends up erasing. Yes. Okay. So you want to be able to read through it. Let me grab. Oh, it's going to be under all of my paint. Oh, hang on just a second. At the risk of dumping a bunch of paint on the floor. Oh, success. All right. Here we go. All right. So can everybody see the hello there? You want to be able to read through it. And we'll practice paint consistency too, because we didn't have to paint as much with black. Black didn't take us as long. So if I put a little bit of water on my palette, this is just water, and then I kind of get my brush back into the Goldilocks zone where I'm leaving a little bit of water on my hand, but not too much. Go grab a little bit of paint and put that in there, okay? And I don't know if you could see what just happened. There's no water left on my palette, right? This is a magic trick. This is the wicking. What's the word? Where capillary action. That's the word. Okay, capillary action is an awesome word. My brush just sucked up all that water and paint. And so when I put it over top of my hello, I can still read it. So it's mostly water, a little bit of paint. Okay, if you grab too much paint and not enough water, then you're not going to be able to read your hello, right? So the key is, I find, getting some water on my palette so that I've got a little bead of water there. Grabbing a little bit of paint. And again, a little bit being maybe, can't really see it. Focus, maybe about that much. Getting it in that water, letting my brush suck it up. And then I've got this nice thin layer. Alternatively, if you use a weld palette is great because you can put your water paint in there and then just grab it with your brush. But if I've got a relatively dry brush where I'm not leaving, you see how I'm leaving a little bit of water? My brush is always that wet. My brush is always leaving a little bit of water behind. So the belly of it, one of the things that I like about this is a Winsor Newton. I'm painting, I should have told you guys this, I'm painting with a size 2. I'll often paint with a size 3 just because I like how much more belly it's got. Do you see how that's a bigger brush? That's a size 3. This is a 0. Do you see the difference in how much water each of those brushes is going to hold? This middle one is going to hold more than this. The reason that watercolor brushes get more expensive as they get bigger, if you get into like a 6, I think like 6 is really the cutoff where it starts to get super expensive. Those bigger brushes are meant to hold a whole heck of a lot of water. Let me see, I might, hang on, at the risk of knocking everything over, I'm going to leave my desk for a second and grab some ink brushes. Here we go. So I used to do like Chinese ink painting. So these brushes, see how big they are compared to our number 2. Now, obviously they're not as fine a brush. The hair quality is not as fine, but I'm not looking for super detail. In the case of the painting that I'm doing with these, I don't want that super fine point. I don't have to pay for it. I'm just using inks anyway. So, you've got bigger brushes, and the bigger they are, the more expensive they are. But the benefit of that is that let's look at, and I did this the other day. Yeah, we're just going to use this so I don't have to repaint it. Sorry, guys. This was what I painted with the same amount, of paint water on my mix with my number 2 brush. This I used, excuse me, a, old synthetic, not natural hair brush, but just a cheap craft brush. And then this was what I got using my 0 brush. I got no real estate. I got no surface area. And the reason that I don't like that, hang on. Fountain drink. The reason that I like that bigger brushes is that I don't have to re-wet that often. I don't have to go back to my palette. This brush is going to dry out before this brush. Let me see if I have anything bigger within reach. Yeah, find me on Discord later and I'll grab my 6. I have a 4 and I have a 6 in the Winsor Newtons. And I use those second wash. Yes, a second wash would knock it down even more. So, where we are right now with this one, let me move the white background out of the way, is, we've lost some of those highest highlights, but you can still see them peeking through. If you wanted to get it even darker, you could go even darker. If you wanted paint to look more like leather, you would have a higher highlight. Let's see, let's grab some of the, I'm going to grab the aircraft gray. And I'm just going to make it maybe really narrow. And what that's going to make it look like is just like you would on non-metallic metal, you're going to make it look like a hard edge because that fabric is shiny and it has a very narrow highlight. But yeah, I like the bigger brushes because I don't have to go back to my palette quite as often. I don't have to re-wet my brush as often. It holds more water. I can paint further. My brush doesn't dry out on me and I can keep going. Okay. So is that kind of feeling good? Everybody okay with that? Does that kind of make sense? Let's see, I might have an example of a leathery. Yeah, here we go. Let's grab this lady. So I did that for my bust class, I think last time, where it went really, really high on that jacket, but most of it stayed pretty dark. This was just our example. We never finished, but that's how I would think about black leather. As I would have a very, very high highlight, but very little of it. Okay. And obviously she's not done, so not all of that is painted, but okay. All right, so we did a warm white and we did a cold black. We could play with some alternatives. Let's see how much time we have. Oh, good, we've got a half an hour. Woot, woot. Anybody have any questions? Silence. Okay, all right, we're good. Okay, let's maybe use, these are colors that you guys don't have. So is that okay if I use some other colors to just demonstrate maybe on this mini, some alternative color schemes, some different ways to make things look? Yep, okay, good, okay, good. So I might use, let's do, since we already have some of this on our palette, let's maybe do a purple. I've got this ashen rose, I really like this. This is a really pretty pinky purple. Um, why? Wait, oh, why is Gamora? That is awesome. Oh man, that movie always makes me laugh. Oh, I tell you, I love that. You know, it's funny too. At work, they play a lot of oldies, and so sometimes, you know, the songs from Guardians of the Galaxy will come on. I know that was from. Was that from Guardians of the Galaxy, or is that from the the one with the big bad guy Thanos? My brain is gone. But at any rate, you know, the music will come on, and I just can't unsee the scenes in the movie. Um, let's do a little bit of. Let's try for our black. Let's try to go warm. Let's use a little bit of red shadow. I've got that on my palette already. All right, so I'm going to use a little bit of this ashen rose, okay, and maybe a little bit of this red shadow. So I'm going to kind of keep it in the purpley, and let's highlight our black with those. Let's see what we can do. And again, one of those is a very, very light color. So it may hurt us a little bit, but we're gonna work with it. So let's grab red shadow, and instead of doing this, let's paint red. And I'm gonna grab a little, and if you wanted to go even darker, you could get like a coal black or a solid black and do a couple, you know, of the deepest folds in those versus your nightshade, but you're not gonna see a lot of definition between those two. All right, I'm gonna use the nightshade still. Let's see. And mix that. At this point, I'm just gonna mix to kind of show you guys things, so I maybe move a little faster. But let's grab some nightshade, some of the red shadow. Let me cover over this, make it look a little browner. Good, yeah, there we go. Here's a little bit more of the nightshade. The corners there. Oh, sorry, I ran off the screen again. Curses foiled again. There we go. Okay, I'm just gonna paint over that. And I could do the same thing with a glaze. You know, I could just glaze in red if I wanted to take away the blue. Dance off. Oh my gosh, that scene was awesome. Yep. Infinity War. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, it was Infinity War. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we're going to let that cool or dry for a little bit. Let's mix a little bit. What I'm doing right now on my palette is I'm just mixing a little bit of that red shadow with that ashen rose. And I'm going to have to watch paint dry, and this is super unfun. So any memes that anyone wants to share in chat while we're watching paint dry, it's the most fun in the world. I should get my hair dryer at some point. I really should. Let's see. The cat is back asleep. He's stopped snoring. He's curled into a little ball. He's normally not allowed in the hobby room unsupervised, and he's not supposed to be on the bed, but yet there he is. Yep. I can. His cheeseburger lives on. Yep. Oh, good. It's still there. Oh, good. I'll have to go there again. If you ever need to pick me up, just look at Happy Cat pictures online. I think, yeah, that is the best. My cats are so funny. Yeah, well, when we're watching paint dry, I'll talk about my cats. I have a cat named Mari, short for Mariposa, and she brought me a live vole one day, and it got in the house, and that was quite an experience of me trying to chase down the vole that finally made it under my couch, which is the worst place for a vole to be, until I could finally catch it with a towel and put it back outside. Yes, that was awesome. So yes, cats are the best. Cats are the best. And of course, you know, once I released it into the wild, she promptly killed it and looked at me like I was an idiot for not doing it myself. Of course, of course. All right. Yes, she's very thoughtful. She has brought me. She's a hunter. Unfortunately, which I feel very guilty about some days. But she has brought me, I think one year she brought me 4.5 bunnies. And I say 4.5 because the last one was still alive. And that was the mix of red shadow and ashen rose. Yeah. So I, you know, put the bunny out. She tore into its leg. I was trying to decide if I should take it to the vet and just have it put down, but I let it go. It hid under a bush for a little while, and then I went to go check on it, and hopped off, and I thought, oh, good, the bunny's gotten away. This is fantastic. And the neighborhood red-shouldered hawk swooped down, and there was the bunny. So the bunny did not make it, but it was not killed by the cat. So I'm not sure if that's a win or not. Yeah, she's trying to teach me how to hunt. Yes, she's such a good cat. She knows that I cannot fend for myself. All right, this is straight ash and rose. There we go. There we go. So this is kind of in the pink range. And again, I'm still doing kind of the same thing, you know, and I'm leaving this so you can kind of see the blends a little bit better. Let's grab a little bit more of that. This is a little bit more brown, that red shadow. I like red shadow, I like green shadow, I like peacock green. Those are all good colors. So that's gonna, when that dries, it's gonna look a little bit warmer. Feral cats. Never cease. Yes, it's great having cats around to kill rodents that we don't want, but it is kind of sad for our snakes and our reptile population. I have some guilt. She did bring me a garter snake once, and I felt really, 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 really bad. Yeah, they're evil predators. They're murdering murderers. I think Rhonda Bender calls her cat a murdering murderer. Yep. So let's see. We'll get just a little bit more of that there. There we go. So that's quite a transition. We'll let that kind of dry. See if it'll refocus. There we go. So that's kind of a redder look. Yep, yeah, there will be no squirrel problem. Yeah, the birds still sometimes come to my backyard, but I stopped feeding them long ago because I felt like that was cruel and wrong. All right, so we could also do a cool white. Oh, still hear the tiny screams. Oh, mice. Yeah. Yeah, my cat has a very specific vocalization that she makes when she's caught something, and I always know that I'm going to find something either dead or alive on the back porch when she meows in a certain way. All right, so let's use some of our snow shadow, and let's shade this white here. Oh, I may have to, let me go back to the sort of white paper. There we go. There we go, since we're doing white now. Okay. Everybody doing okay? Yeah, big enough. They eat humans. Oh yes, when cats are big enough in general, yes, they do eat humans. This is very true. Yep, they sure do. All right, I forgot this is gonna be recorded forever. You can hear stories about my cats. Oh yeah. All right, and I'll grab a little bit of that mix, our mix in between our dark elf skin and our snow shadow. Just paint over a little bit. So we're using our cooler colors maybe to shade. Our white there. So that's going to look a little muddy because white's so translucent. But I could use a cooler. I could use a purple, you know, to shade my white. And I do that a lot, I think, because purple makes very good shading. If I wanted to make my, let me grab a color that you also don't have. Let's play with a little bit of purple yellow. Purple yellow is a great combination. This is lemon yellow. It's a really cool yellow. It's pretty close to, it's cadmium, but not quite as bright. It's got a little bit more white in it. Okay. Cat hoarder. Oh yes. Oh, I did actually have foxes. I still have raccoons and possums. They come, and I try not to leave out the cat food overnight because I think that's what they're eating. But yeah, I did actually have. There's a fox that I don't know if he'd gotten his foot attacked by a coyote or if he was caught in a trap, but he had a broken leg, so I fed him for a while and released him back into the wild. But he lived on my back porch for a summer. It was a gray fox. Yeah, I should keep my cats inside, but the one, if I keep her in, she will like destroy the house. So I'm going to use a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to highlight up in here. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow on top of our white. Okay. See how bright that looks? I love purple yellow combination. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that snow shadow dark elf skin mix, and we're going to go a little bit darker in here. Here we go. So in this case, you know, it doesn't read as much of white, but I've got a little bit of color in it. And then I can come back with my pure white right next to that, that lemony yellow. Let's put a little bit of snow shadow in here. So we're going to use a warm kind of cool. Gosh, yeah, that doesn't, it's hard to see. But I'm using that yellow as a highlight and that purple as a shadow. Internet issues, please let us know. Oh, okay. Thanks, guys. Yeah. Okay. Are we doing, how are we doing on time? Oh, good. Yeah, we got 15 minutes. All right. So I'll keep playing with some colors because I think that's fun. Black never ends up taking quite as long as white. Let's see what else we can work in here. Work a little bit more snow shadow down in here. Gotta watch paint dry, which is so unfun. Everybody doing okay? Let's grab a little bit of that aircraft gray. There we go. A little bit more of that aircraft gray. So that's going to look a little purplier, but I'm going to warm it up a little bit with that yellow, but it's a cool yellow. You know, if I wanted to use a really bright cadmium yellow, it would look a little bit warmer. Almost looks more silky. Yes, that's one of the things about silks and satins is that you'll find that there's a lot more color in them. And a lot of it is just because of the weave of the fabric. And I wish I had an example of cloth. I have a whole bunch of silks somewhere, but not anywhere near that I can get. But the more color that you work into things, the more that you play with your warm colds, you can get different fabric looks. So that's a fun one to do. Purple yellow is always a really good combination. It'll still look, you know, in this case, it looks a little bit more gray. Um, oh yeah, good. Yes, I like my soothing voice. I really love Bob Ross, so he's my hero. For Christmas, I got a Bob Ross car window shade. It was my favorite present next to the Clorox wipes that I also got, which were the best. Story of our lives, Clorox wipes. Yep. All right. So let's see. Grab a little bit of that pure white. For a cold blue white. So for a blue white, I'd probably use what we've got on our palette. I'd use that snow shadow, maybe the aircraft gray. You could also instead use like icy violet, Reaper's sort of purpley white, or snowdrift white. Let's see, spectral white. I've got snowdrift white, spectral white. Let's see, let me wash my brush off and not leave white on it. What have we got here? Ghost white. Yeah, these are some of the really good off whites. Let's look at what they look like. See if we can get the camera to pick them up. This one's very purple. This one's blue, bluish. This one's a little greenish. So I'd probably use one of those, depending on what I wanted near it. Your snow shadow is a great cold blue. So here is like snowdrift and snow shadow. See if we can see those better right there. Yeah, you can kind of pick up. This is just a little bit darker blue. The camera's not as good at doing that. You could use, let me see what else I have further away on my desk that might work. I don't have it here, but like Clouded Sea is a really good grayish. Let's see if I can get to. Oh, I do. Oh, I win. So this is a much darker color. But if you mixed this with a little bit of white, it's a very desaturated gray-green, like the ocean, on a very gray day. So that would be a really good clouded sea. What else would be good? I've done some green whites. Let me grab a couple examples. We'll go for examples at the end. This is going to look more cream. But in this case, I used the same greens, the olive greens that I used in the corset for shading on the white. Let's see if we can look from the back. It's going to be a little darker in the back. So there's a lot more green on the back, so you could shade with green. I love Clouded Sea. Yeah, I couldn't find Clorox wipes for the longest time. It was fixing to run out, so I was very excited about it. Yeah, that's my family knows me well. Let's just say my family knows me well. So that is a green white. Let's see what other colors. Yeah, I had a whole bunch of examples. I meant to show you guys those early on, but I forgot. Here is, yeah, let's look at the Nightmare. So this is the mix that we were using for our blacks. You can see the purples in it. You can see for the white teeth, or the gray teeth in this case, those those blues. So if you want to think about this could be, you know, it's a gray, but this could be a cool white. And it's the same colors that we used for our black highlight, but we just go a little bit lighter. So we can use that. So let's see, what else do we have that's, oh yeah, this is another good mix. I like this. This is going to look a little blue. And it's not meant to be black, but let's see, let me move the camera back just a little bit. Hang on. The risk of, there we go. Okay. So on the back here, this one is, this is Nightmare Black, I think. And oh, I probably used maybe some clouded, yeah, I think I put clouded sea in this, and some white. So you could use that for, you know, for very cool black as well. The warm blacks, you know, the reds would be good. You know, your red shadow is a really good one. A purple, you know, a warm purple. You could even use, you know, instead of our cool purple, you could use like a runic purple or something like that. That's a warmer purple. Let's see, this is gray rather than black. But this is, I think, Dusky Skin was the purple that I used in this. So the Dusky Skin is a really good off but warm, because it's a skin tone, so it's going to be a little bit warmer. So that's where I got that warm color in that gray marble. Tearing, how would I handle a tear in a black cloak? Oh, okay, I would, let's pretend we've got, let's go back to this. Let me get rid of the white since we're doing black. Go back to the gray. Let's think here. Let's say we had maybe like a rip kind of right in there. That would be a weird place for a rip, but we're just going to pretend. We're going to treat it like we would treat a scar. So maybe like that, and then we'd come back up underneath it, right in the middle here, and put a little bit of a shadow. So maybe so that you had a high highlight, you faded it up into, because we're thinking, you know, what's happening, that the fabric might be tearing, you know, so that there's, this is disconnected from that. So there's going to be a shadow here, but there's going to be a highlight, and then it's going to kind of fade into something else. Yeah, okay, yes, if one has cats, there are holes in everything. Yes, this is for sure. But I treat it like I would a scar, or maybe a sword blade edge. I do something high, and I might not go quite that high. There we go, fade that out a little bit so that it looks like the fabric is not all one layer. There's a cut in there. Can you kind of see it from that angle? But you'd always want to go back and get, you know, your dark. Let's grab a little bit of coal black and we'll kind of put that in there. There we go. Like that. Okay. So it kind of looks like that. So that it's not connected at all. Same thing with like a nick and a sword blade. You do the same thing. You know, you'd have a, let's draw on me. You'd have a light area. You'd have a dark area next to it because your light's not reflected. And then the rest would be kind of blended in like that. So that it looks like a hard edge. Like that. But obviously smaller and here. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. We've got about 10 minutes left. How are we doing, guys? Questions? Worries? Anything? So yes, yeah, I tend to, yeah, I paint a lot of, well, it's easier for me to show you since my hands are right here and not go get the paper and do it for some things versus if I'm going to do a wash, obviously I'm not going to put a wash on my hands because then paint will go everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, Proctor's hands. Yeah, have Proctor show you his hands when he paints. These are always covered in paint. Always. Yeah. All right. Any questions? Oh, good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to my class and hanging out. And I should be on Discord after this. I will keep myself connected. I may get some food and eat as we talk, though. But yeah. All right, so we finished up a little early. Sorry. Let me think if there's anything else I can tell you or show you. Or went through some minis. We went through colors. Oh, good. Oh, yeah. I'm really excited about tomorrow's class. Let me plug my. This was. I think it might have been the first class that I took when came to ReaperCon. Was Angela Emery's crystals. So this is what we're gonna do tomorrow. We're gonna paint this, and it's gonna be awesome. I really love crystals. Crystals are just so much fun. So thanks, guys. Yeah, uh, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have super fun. Yeah, thank you, everyone for coming. I guess I'm good. Yeah, it's about. We'll finish up a few minutes early. Sorry, guys. I could put some more paint on this, but I think you get the idea. Um, oh, grandson's birthday. That's okay. It'll be recorded. Just watch it another time. I don't know where they're all gonna. I'm not actually sure where they're all gonna show up on the Reaper forum or the YouTube channel. I'm not sure where they'll be in the end, but there's a lot of classes I want to catch. Like Ian. Ian always teaches opposite me, so I would love to take some of Ian's classes later on. And Rhonda just teaches too late at night for me. I'm an early bird. I go to bed. I turn into a pumpkin at like 9 o'clock. Um, so about a month after editing. Oh, great. Okay, good. So I'll be able to watch Rhonda's classes later too. So that'll be good. Yeah, and Dave always teaches opposite me too. Um, so yeah, yep. I will get Mr. Had to scramble. Oh yeah, I actually had to scramble to find my snow shadow because I forgot that I was going to use it. So it's good. I found it too at the last minute. So no worries. Yeah, it's like anything in painting. We all start out in this kind of adolescent. Just our skin is all cranky, and then eventually it smooths out, and our blends come together. So yeah, yep. Yeah, it's hard when we're first starting out. Color theory class. I will probably teach my color theory class in the fall at ReaperCon. I thought about doing it, but I didn't want to do 4 classes this weekend. So I will probably teach that at ReaperCon. We'll do that. That'll be good. Yep. Typical layers do I do when doing a surface? Quite a few, because I want a smoother blend. Although sometimes I paint very fast, I can get blends because I do a lot of wet blending. Let me see if I can find. There she is. This little lady that I'm working on. I mean, I maybe painted her for maybe now at this point I've painted for maybe 4 hours. So I do a lot of wet blending on the miniature itself. So it's not actually that many layers, but I'll sometimes glaze over top to get a few more layers. But I tend to mix a lot as I go. I paint very fast because I usually have very little time to paint. So it's not so many layers for everything. It's more how I'm putting the paint down. But if you're a layer, 1,000 layers, layer until you're tired of doing layers, take a break, go do something else, and then come back and layer some more is usually the standard for painting. Can we get a close up? Maybe. Yeah, there we go. There she is. This is for the whatever the faction thing, the faction fight, the 3 colors. So this is a 3-color mini. This mini was done with 3 colors. The colors I'm using on her dress, I'm only using 3 colors. So let me find them. I put them away because they're not on my list of things that I need. So she is painted with Nightmare Black, runic purple, and lemon yellow, and that's it. And actually, what I can do too, when we're done, when I get on Discord, is I can put those on my palette and show you how to play with them, because this is a really color theory chosen palette, and I'd love to, since I'm not teaching color theory, I'd love to show you guys color theory. So yeah, so we can do that later after this. So okay. All right, I'll see you guys. Take care. Have fun. Paint hard. Mostly have fun. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. How many colors do I start with? I just realized there are odd number of colors. I used to paint with very few colors. I like doing things like this. I like painting with like 3 colors. Lately, though, I've started adding a few more colors because I like putting in fun things. This mini I painted with primary colors, primary colors, black and white. So I picked a cadmium, a yellow, an ultramarine blue, and then a white and a black, and I painted this with that. because I like mixing, because it's an exercise. Oh, I do not have a badge. I am sorry. I am not super technologically savvy. So there's no badge, but thank you guys for coming anyway. Oh, let's see. Any other questions? Did I miss it? I think that I missed a question. There's not a badge. No. Pick my whites for a piece. Yes, I may pick an off-white based on what other colors I have nearby. So if there's a green nearby, I may pick a blue or a purple. Yeah, I'm not tech savvy. I'm sort of tech savvy, but I'm getting better. I'm tech savvy compared to my parents. Don't tell them that, but yeah. Um, but I'm going to always add the unifying white. So I'm always going to use one highest highlight for everything because I want it to look like whatever light is shining down is hitting everything. So I might not use a blue white on part of it and a purple white. I would pick one off white and then pure white if I needed it. But I wouldn't pick like leather and linen and snowdrift. I would pick one of those and use it across the mini. And it might make some of my stuff look grayer or darker, but it would look more unified. Yeah, so good question. Very good question. So, all right. Well, thanks, guys. Hugs, and I'll see you on Discord shortly after I go refill my water, and I'll be back.